Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. So, Audie is asleep on the chair behind me. He's had a strange couple of days. We had snow. The snow melted. He didn't like it when it was in his yard, when it melted. And it was in the neighbor's yard. He didn't like that any better. So I'm just glad he's asleep now, because when he's sleeping, he's not complaining. We are getting into the weather in which he is more likely to take his walkabout. And that's one day a year. He will go out and stay away for a full day. Last time it was 37 hours, and I was not amused. He does this when spring has sprung, and he'll get a good day and just say, I'm not coming home. So what I have to do is, once the weather starts getting good, I have to put extra flashers on his collar and make sure he's wearing a flasher even when I let him go out in the early afternoon, because that way at least I know if he stays out all night long, he's reasonably safe. You know, he's flashing red, white, and blue. At least people are going to know something is out there. Otherwise, black cat in the night could be dangerous. So, that's what's going on with Audie. We'll see if he decides to get up and photobomb. He has been doing that a lot lately. Yellow is for Catherine, for Lex's mom, for everyone coping with cancer. We are just sending our very, very best wishes out to all of you and to your families, because I've mentioned this before. Cancer does not just hit one person. It hits that one person, and then the fallout lands on everyone they love, everyone who loves them. So all of you are in our thoughts. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the intro. This is your chance to go grab a cup of coffee, get yourself comfortable, whatever, and we'll be back in 22 seconds. So, Nutmeg and the sock puppet have been keeping their heads down lately. Almost enough to satisfy everybody, but we are going to talk about that, because that is the story I want to feature this evening. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about Nutmeg and the weird crystal spiritual birthday, Lord only knows what seance, I'm guessing, for Kerry Washington. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Kerry Washington, and I have to say, I was not until I actually looked up her credits. And I remembered her from the Fantastic Four series, which, as I understand it, was not particularly well received. I can't say I enjoyed those movies. I really can't. Even though my taste in movies is that of a 6-year-old boy. You throw in Arnold Schwarzenegger, a superhero, and enough guns, and I'm in heaven. But I paid attention to this one because it was a black actress playing a blind white character. And I know at the time there was some backlash, because the comic book fans tended to be unhappy that they had made a race change in the character of Alicia from the comics. And the blind community was wondering why that was okay, but nobody bothered to say, let's put in a visually impaired actor. What can I say? I guess enough boxes were not ticked off going in with a character who was already blinded female. Go figure. But that is where I remember her from. So we are talking about an actress who has had a significant presence in Hollywood. But A-lister, no, not hardly. And it was her birthday, and Jessica Alba showed up. And apparently Jessica was the star of the show because she's the one the media reported on most heavily. And Jessica Alba, again, we're not talking A-lister. I think there was a time when she was, but that was probably about 10, 15 years ago. And these days, I think she's more known for her cosmetics company. But Nutmeg was apparently also at the party. And everyone has been referring to that as a low-key appearance. And that is mostly because with Jessica Alba there, nobody was bothering to take Nutmeg's picture. She was just drowned out in the Jessica Alba noise. I'm sure she really liked that. But this is her sort of car park stroll. And obviously, it's not generating the kind of publicity I imagine she was hoping for. Nevertheless, it just shows she will not, even when she is dedicating herself to staying out of the limelight, she just can't do it. I found it very amusing that Nutmeg was a footnote, that Nutmeg was photographed in silhouette in the background, and thus far, as of Sunday evening, let me put it that way, as of Sunday evening, no, there were no major photographs of her just clutching Jessica Alba, Kerry Washington for dear life. That didn't come out. So it seems that even among the A- list that she is traveling in now, she's still not the star of the show. However, one of the things that I have noticed is in the absence of more blatant publicity grabs, the newspapers in particular, Daily Mail and Newsweek, are resurfacing old stories. And I'm going to get to that in a minute as we talk about the Newsweek article. The Newsweek article, which is basically the central focus of this particular video, was written by Jack Royston. And at one time, Jack Royston was second only to Omid Scobie as the Sussex cheerleading squad captain. He was writing article after article, very, very favorable to Nutmeg and the Sock Puppet. At times, it was ludicrously so. But this most recent article, not so favorable. He began quoting from The Cut, and that was Alison Davis's interview, which was savage. If you approached it from the right point of view, it was savage. I think a lot of people did miss the point because Davis was very tongue-in-cheek. She was extremely subtle in the many ways in which she just shamelessly mocked Nutmeg again and again and again. I think a lot of people missed that because if they hadn't, the Sussex squad wouldn't have been bandying that article around on their social media feed. It was, well, as I say, savage, but brilliantly so. And I think that is one of the risks Nutmeg runs when she allows herself to be interviewed by people who are a good deal smarter than she is and likely to be extremely offended when she condescends to them. And yeah, they will have the last laugh. It is rumored that Davis lost her job with the New Yorker after that, but what can I say? I hope that is not so, but if she did, I hope she has gone on to bigger and better things. Royston moves then over to the Vanity Fair article and quotes from among their most savage criticisms. So from The Cut, It was things like Nutmeg referring to herself in the third person, giving Davis directions on what to write, and with this sort of third person narrative about herself, saying, well, she's sort of making guttural noises and I don't know what's going on in her head. She just doesn't have words. She's just moaning. I'd wonder if she was operating with a full deck if I had witnessed something like that. But yeah, that was one of the most bizarre quotes from the article, and Royston did include that. Then he moves to the Vanity Fair article, where they are saying that she was a nightmare and the sock puppet was nice, but he was an enabler, and of course went on to say that basically he's an idiot, which we all knew. And, Nutmeg is a dictator in high heels. So these are the articles he's quoted from. And the substance of the article he wrote was, every time they open their mouths, we like them less. So I look at this and say, yeah, there was a lot of insight in this. And I'm glad Royston is actually using whatever his talents are, because it seems that he is perfectly talented as an insightful writer, as well as an overenthusiastic cheerleader. So good for him. His point is that they cannot open their mouths without generating controversy and contempt from the audience. That the audience that they are appealing to watches for their interviews and their podcasts, their Netflix shows, their books, whatever, to get royal gossip. That's the draw. So that was obviously the draw for Netflix. It was the draw for Spotify. And Netflix got their money's worth on that one because heaven knows they did trash the royal family in their Netflix series. Spotify, not so much. But the interesting thing is, yes, when they open their mouths, they make enemies. But when they keep their mouths shut for any length of time, they give the media the opportunity to go back over and review the past, put it into context, compare what went on in the moment to what we know subsequently. So we are also seeing articles dredging up, for example, the Daily Mail had one. They were dredging up all of the controversy around Nutmeg's wedding. And it included whether or not she curtsied to the Queen, what was going on behind the scenes, who was making who cry. They mentioned Tiaragate. The fact is, if we have enough time to stop and think about who they are, who they have presented themselves as, what they have done, what they have not done, we start to see a more complete picture. And that picture is not good. So basically, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. But, whose fault is that? That is not the vicious media seizing upon them. That is their own fault, because when they do give out public statements, when they talk, they slam people. They lie. Sock Puppet talks about his mother's face cream on his Todger. Nobody is doing this to them but themselves. So yes, the more they talk, the more we dislike them. However, the less they talk, the more opportunity we have to analyze everything that has gone before. The more the newspapers, the magazines, the periodicals have the chance to dig up old stories, put them in perspective with what we know today, and start throwing this out there. So we have stories about Nutmeg's wedding, not curtsying to the Queen. Well, she did say she was going to become a British citizen, didn't she? And If she was, in fact, to become a British citizen, then it would have been appropriate to curtsy to the Queen. I still hold my ground that it's not appropriate for an American to do this. We do not curtsy to our own head of state. We should not be curtsying to anyone else's. That's just sort of American 101. And that, in fact, was established back in the 18th century. So, regardless of that, we've had an opportunity to look at this in retrospect, and the picture is very, very unflattering. And we don't have anything to take the edge off that. In other words, we don't have those photos blasting at us from the newspapers because Nutmeg has done another car park strut. All we have is shadowy pictures of Nutmeg in semi-profile in the far background, behind Jessica Alba and 3 or 4 other more interesting people at a birthday party. Wow. What we did get, though, is a clear sense of what is happening. Their star is falling, and it's falling big time. I do not believe that anything that happens in Canada regarding the Invictus Games, which I believe is just next week, I don't think anything is going to pull their butts out of the fire coming from this. I just don't see that happening. They have been too badly damaged. Subsequent to their disaster tourism at the LA fires, rumors are circulating that actual rescue workers, in other words, people who were supposed to be there on the site where they were providing assistance to the sufferers from the fire, rescue workers were being pulled out so that Nutmeg and the sock puppet could have the entire arena to themselves. And allegedly this was done at the hands of Victor Gordo. He's the mayor of Pasadena. And we do know he was with them. So I don't know. I have no idea if the stories are accurate. I've heard the rumors, but I have not seen enough evidence to determine the credibility of those rumors. But yeah, that doesn't show well for them. And of course, what we have now with this sort of, in the silence, the media looking at their actions over the long haul, we are going to see stories emerging about the sock puppet screaming about his security, about his family being in so much danger, and then making very high-profile trips to 2 of the most dangerous countries in the world, Nigeria and Colombia, and then going off to the site of the LA fires, where the fires were still going on and the area was still so unsafe that residents of the area were not being allowed back into their residences or even their neighborhoods. So yeah, hard to believe he really does feel his safety is in jeopardy when he goes that far out of his way to make himself the one to jeopardize his safety. Yes, the media is already having a field day with their bizarre track record, and I imagine this is going to continue. I, for one, am going to watch this carefully. All right, we are going to end a little early because, frankly, that's what I have for you. They're at home. Actually, I don't know that they're at home. I know Nutmeg is somewhere in California. I have no idea where the sock puppet is. For all I know, he's staying at the YMCA in Manhattan because it doesn't look like he's spending all that much time at home in California. But because of this, we're going to have the opportunity to end a little early, which is a nice break for all of us. We have all wanted this. We are looking forward to this period of silence, and we're hoping it will last, although I doubt it. All right. As I say, we're ending early. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all next time. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.